You are now listening to Sentinel Soundbytes.
So we are live. All right.
Hello and welcome back to the Sentinel Soundbytes podcast, where we are recording on the campus of the Alabama School of Cyber Technology and Engineering, where today we are joined by two of our faculty members who are going to give you a great insight to something we do here at ASCTE, multiple things we do, I should say. And that is none other. We're joined by Miss Beth Blair and Mr. Peter Speak. I would like to thank both of you for joining us. Miss Blair, we're going to start with you, and I'm going to allow you a chance to introduce yourself, talk about maybe your background, your education, your history, and what led you here to the ASCTE.
Okay, sure. My name is Beth Blair, and I'm the lead counselor here. I'm actually a licensed professional counselor and supervisor. So I got to ASCTE kind of in a roundabout way. I've been here since day one. Started the summer before we opened in August in 2020. I, before that, had done private practice, and before that had worked for a community mental health center for my whole career. So I had never been at a school. And when Mr. Massey called me, well, my stepdad works here, and he had told me that they were looking for a clinical counselor, which is a little bit different than traditional school counseling in that we could provide actual mental health counseling here at school. So Mr. Massey reached out and said, we're looking for someone clinical that has that experience because of our boarding component and really giving kids that extra sort of mental health support here at school where they don't have to leave and go see someone outside in the community, but we would provide that in-house. So I'm just really interested in the school setting, and I had been for a long time. So it just was a great fit for me. I was able to move out of private practice. I also love working with a team of people versus by myself, I learned. And so private practice can be very isolating, and I was happy to get back into like that team environment and have, more of a consultation group and peers and mentors that I could learn from and grow with.
Sure, perfect. Well, thank you for sharing that. And Mr. Speak, we're going to turn and go same to you, allow you to introduce yourself, talk about your background and what led you to here at ASCTE and your title here with us now.
Yeah, so I'm Peter Speak. I am a cyber instructor for the sophomore level here, Cyber 201 and 301. My background, I came out of college with a computer science degree, and I went into more of the government industry side. Did that for about 8 years, then did a whole startup out of New York, doing a lot of web design. And then after doing that for a bit, I kind of was looking around, seeing what else was out here, and I had a good buddy show me ASCTE. And after I walked through these halls the first time, man, I just couldn't get out of my head. Like, this is a cool place where cool things are happening. So there was an opportunity for a cyber instructor, and I jumped on it as fast as I could, really, yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I'm going to stay with you here. And one thing that we are able to do here at the ASCTE is hire teachers from industry, not necessarily certified teachers, and you being one of those that are coming from the field. Can you talk about maybe turning back the clock to when you first got here? And you mentioned, cool place, cool things happening, but your impression of this school, particularly in the cyber field, as far as like what we were teaching kids comparative to what you had spent almost a decade or longer working on, and then what you saw 14, 15, 16, and 17-year-olds learning in our building, and kind of your perspective of that. Do you mind sharing kind of that piece?
Sure. Yeah, so growing up for me, I didn't have any cybersecurity or software development in high school. That wasn't really an option. And when I came in here, seeing that level of these students and the excitement of these students, I really think this school is all about the students. They bring all the value here, and they are just above and beyond anything that I had seen before. They're invested, and they really care about it, and they're really engaged and excited to learn, which makes teaching an easy job. I don't have any background in teaching except for this last year. And the first thing I'll say is that you don't realize how much teachers do until you become one. And wow, it's a significant amount of work. But the students here make that easy because they're so engaged and so excited.
Sure. Yeah, well, appreciate you sharing that. Miss Blair, I'm going to flip back to you. And you alluded to being here from day one, or really even technically day zero, I guess. Can you talk about a little your perspective, just as a whole for the school, of the growth you've seen, and as you reflect on where we've been to where we are, and you even think about where we're going, can you just share with us kind of your perspective of seeing that from now until then?
Okay, well, we started off where we were getting ready for school that first year. Literally all of us were painting walls, cleaning floors,
Other duties.
mopping the bathrooms so we could get kids in like 2 days later. And so I think having that initial buy-in,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm kind of a get in there and do it kind of person. And so it really helped me take ownership of like this whole experience, I feel like. And we started out, of course, in a one hallway, very small location at Oakwood. But I think bonded everybody. I don't want to say we were like trauma bonded, but we were in the middle of COVID.
Sure.
We were all wearing masks. Every kid came in with a mask. We didn't even see their actual faces until like year 2. I mean, and we were all like, we were one of the only schools that were in person at the time, trying to do in-person school with a residential program that was a startup. And it was crazy, but it was fun. We had, I can't remember the exact number, but maybe around 50 to 60 kids at the time, maybe a few more. But it was like we were all growing together. We were all figuring it out together. And I know we're talking about ethics today, but, one thing I didn't mention is I'm the ethics teacher here. And so that came about because we had a change in personnel midway through that first year. And so I took over ethics at that time. So we all were just kind of pitching in and doing what we had to do. Then we moved here, got some more students. This is a lot nicer space than we had at Oakwood. And not because the building wasn't nice, just we have so much more space.
Sure.
We were able to spread out and really get a true school experience here. And we got to take the mask off, that everything felt different once we got to this building. And then even since then, I think just seeing the growth and seeing the energy of the students and I will agree, like our kids are phenomenal. And I'm doing the counseling mental health side, and a teacher, but the behavior of our kids, our problems are not problems, I mean, we really have great kids.
Yeah.
And so we're coming in, I think, at a huge advantage, both as faculty and staff, trying to teach and like mold and support these kids because they make it really easy to do that.
For sure. Well, you have made my job easy and setting the segue up here. And you mentioned we are talking about ethics and cyber, and having our ethics teacher and one of our cyber teachers made a great combination for that. So, Mr. Speak, flipping back to you in teaching cyber here, and I know in leading tours and I've heard maybe you or some of our other cyber teachers mention that we might give our kids some access to the dark arts, if you will, of being able to do some things on through a computer that are pretty powerful. But can you talk about just how one that is for you as a teacher, knowing that you're teaching these kids at such a young level to do so many amazing and just powerful things that most of us didn't have access to. And then conversely, towards the end of that, if you can start weaving in, but there's also an ethical piece to it. And just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. And then we'll go to Miss Blair. So if you don't care to just kind of kick us off on that and ethics and cyber and what that looks like, that'd be great.
Sure. When I'm thinking about teaching cyber here, it's usually most of my classes start with like, I don't want the FBI to show up, right? We don't want any of you guys to get in trouble. But that being said, these kids are going to be leading the charge in the next generation. Cybersecurity it's everywhere. Every industry has, a mobile app or a website or whatever it may be. And whether or not they go into cyber, they need to have those fundamentals, those understandings of how to protect our data or their clients' data. And so it's really important to show them the ropes and show them how the dark arts, as you said, actually happen, because there's no better way to defend against them than know how they run.
Sure.
But I do have to yet preface again, like you can get in a lot of trouble doing this. So how do you handle the ethics of these situations? And what we do, and what's so cool here at ASCTE, is that if a big cybersecurity vulnerability or concern comes out to light, some company gets hacked, what I can do as a teacher is I can talk about, okay, this is what happened, right? These were the steps, the good or bad, kind of the decisions that were made to get there. And then also on the back end, I ask the students, like, what are the good or bad steps coming out of that? How do you recover from something like that when it happens? But the other huge benefit that we get here, the side tangent, is that we can spin up machines that actually can simulate these attacks. So they get hands-on experience doing the things that are actually happening here, every month or so. Essentially, there's another attack that kind of happens. So it is a kind of a two-step thing. One, showing them what is actually happening and why we should care about it. And the second part is like, how do we prevent that, or how do we encourage them to add protections early on?
One of my favorite stories since I've been working here, and I'm glad you brought up, not wanting the FBI to show up, because I believe we were doing a tour as we were getting ready to establish a partnership with the FBI here at the ASCTE, and we brought them by your classroom. So it was a little, we brought the FBI to your door. So thankfully for nothing, none of your kids did. Well, Miss Bryan, Miss Bryan, I'm sorry, Miss Blair, in talking about that and cyber and teaching the dark arts and teaching these things and piggybacking off Mr. Speak, you've designed the curriculum for our ethics course. Can you talk about at first what your lens is you look through as you were designing that and writing that, and how important you think it is to teach those things as you are learning how to do some things that could be very beneficial but also very dangerous, how you factor into that equation?
Sure. I think I come at it, especially at our 101 course, which is taught to freshmen. So these are brand new high school students, 14-year-olds, prefrontal cortex development is still happening, right? So we already know this stage of development, there's going to be maturity coming, right? But we want to sort of front load their way of thinking. And so when I go into class, my goal is that they will become more critical thinkers, like better critical thinkers, that they won't do things just because somebody told them to, that they will examine their own personal values and how those things actually impact how they're making decisions every day. Because that 101 class, I really want it, and here's the caveat, I know very little about cyber, okay? I'm not a cyber person, so they are the experts on kind of the intricacies of that particular field. But I think that there are some overlying principles, and that's what we talk about. There's overlying principles about ethics that you can apply in any situation, whether it's cyber decision-making, personal decision-making, architecture, engineering, whatever you're going to do in life, you're going to need some skills to be able to make ethical choices. So we talk a lot about their personal values. We talk a lot about how those impact decision-making. And then if there's those gray areas where there's not, I've either got to violate my personal values or do what someone tells me to do, right?
Which is real life.
How do I navigate that? And I think we all run into that. I run into that almost every day, And so that's really what that course is designed for. And we begin to integrate engineering concepts and cyber concepts and examples to help them work through those things. And we have some very hard conversations about some pretty controversial things, because I also want them to not be afraid to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I feel like we make decisions based on what someone has told us to do. And even if we feel that internal struggle, like, I know this is not the right thing, we go forward with it anyway. And we talk about, how does that make you feel?
Sure.
How do I decide if something is truly an ethical choice? And so we have kind of covered that in 101. Our 201 course is actually in the process of changing, but what we have done in 201 is really then focus on specific areas. So we'll look at ethics in government, like what are the challenges that governmental systems face to make ethical choices, like going to war. How do you make that decision when you know it's going to cost lives? And we look at things like bioethics, so like the CRISPR gene. Is it okay to play with our DNA to get a certain outcome? We look at things in business. So, what impact does the financial pressure of having to produce in a business have on decision making?
Right.
So we look at different aspects of that. We do a lot of case examples. We have looked at things like the Tuskegee syphilis experiment and the Challenger explosion, and times when maybe some decisions have been made that cost people's lives. And what was included in that? Often it's money and power. right? So we talk through those things, and I try to really encourage them to have those hard conversations and kind of go to that next level of thinking, so that they're not just making a decision because they're checking a box,
Sure.
but they're really giving some thought about what they're doing, because we use the Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility, quite often. We know that we're asking them, especially even in that 4th year, going to internship, to take on a lot of responsibility for data and just being in really high security spaces. And so we want to feel confident sending them into those spaces.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Mr. Speak, I'm going to ask now, coming off of that, how, certainly as you're teaching, I know you have your own way of weaving in the messages that you have, but how beneficial it is to have our kids being taught that outside of your classroom, so you can be right into the subject matter. But I guess my question is more like, how often do you see that come into what you're teaching? How often do you come across a scenario where, whether it's something the kid had done or something you're doing in class, that you do have to weave in what they're doing in ethics and have those conversations, and how much it helps that they already have a little background in that, where you're not having to address the subject matter and the principle of the matter?
Oh, that's a great point. And it definitely helps them having those fundamentals there. And one thing that you had mentioned is this whole critical thinking aspect of it. Understanding the situation that you're coming into, breaking that down, and having the ability to really make decisions. And I think critical thinking is a fundamental part of cybersecurity and computer science as a whole. So you're right, it does alleviate some of that. I think as a whole, this whole school brings ethics into the classroom, and we all have to care about not just these kids learning something, but like knowing why we're learning, and
Sure.
and how these these decisions are actually made. Again, I really am so excited to see our students kind of move forward and get out of this school and seeing where they go, because I think they're going to be leading the charge, and in that they need these fundamental ethics and the ability to actually make these leading decisions.
Sure, we're giving a real education here. It's sure some formative. So
Exactly. And so I do also bring it in still as a debate structure, right? You talk about these cybersecurity concerns, and I'll ask the room of, how would you feel if your information gets, exposed or something? Or, okay, now you're in charge of that information. How do you protect it? How do you make sure that none of your clients feel that way of like mistrust or something?
Sure.
They want to know they're in good hands.
Yeah.
So I just want to see them when they lead the charge that they're making these good decisions.
And I'll kind of play off that as well. One of the big things we focus on is perspective taking, and being able to teach kids to put themselves in someone else's shoes. So if it was your mom or your, someone that you care about, and this was happening to them, would that change your response versus it being a stranger? Those kind of conversations, because I think whether it's in, we have companies that we work with that build weapons, and so it's being able to also realize kind of the impact of some of the things that you're being asked to do at work. Like, how do you feel about that, right? And those sort of nuanced conversations, I think, they get kids thinking about, it's not just about me. It's also about the impact for our country, for the people that it's affecting, for the user of the product, if I'm building a product.
All right. Apologies, a little technical difficulty there on our side, and appreciate everybody being so patient with us. Mr. Speak, when we took off, you have used the term a lot in this sit down about talking about how our kids are future leaders and what they're going to do moving forward. Can you talk to us about anything maybe special or particular that you're doing right now, or maybe planning to implement as we're approaching a new school year, that really accelerates that, or you feel like emphasizes that?
Sure. Yeah. So actually, MIT has published an article talking about the missing semester of your computer science degree. And looking into that, it is mostly made up of like industry tools that are just necessary for whether you're getting out of college or getting out of high school, getting your first job, that you just, you hit the ground running if you know these things. Usually these computer science companies, they expect people coming out of college they invest 1 or 2 years into them before they really start producing. But with this missing semester, if they learn these tools, they are just way ahead of the curve. And that's something I'm focusing on in my class. So even in the high school level, even before college, they are learning these tools. And these are actually tools, if you learn, you can be your own self-starter. You can make your own website. And if you have a good enough idea, hey, you can start making money off of it right away, right? So these kids have brilliant ideas, and I want to enable them to just go ahead and run with it. Right?
Yeah, well, that's amazing. And then make sure they're doing it ethically as well. So amazing. Well, we appreciate both of you taking the time to sit down with us today and talk about it a little bit, what's going on in cyber and ethics. And I'm sure we'll get a chance to catch up with both of you as we keep going. And Miss Blair, we're definitely going to circle you back and talk more on the counseling side, but appreciate you talking about your role in the ethics with us here as well. So we'll look forward to seeing you both soon. Hope we have a great start to the school year, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan.
So we are live.